I will call the meeting to order. And before we do the roll, I'd like to take a brief moment and ask for a moment of silence as we remember Deputy Pickett, who was tragically lost 3 years ago today. Thank you. Christy, would you mind doing the roll, please?
Yes. Casey Sampson.
Present.
George Piper.
Here.
Scott Sewell.
Present.
Nicole Weathington.
All right, we have a quorum. I believe Nicole's going to try to join with us later, having some technical difficulties. Seeing no old business, we'll move right to new business. And first up, we have a certificate of appropriateness, Patrick Clues with Clues Brews. And first, we'll hear from staff. Derek?
Good evening, Commission. Sorry for the technical snafus here, but maybe we'll get through some of those and Nicole can join us. So tonight in front of you is Patrick Clues with Clues Brews, located at 125 North Meridian Street in Lebanon. Patrick was here during the February meeting and we discussed the terrace addition that he is proposing on the building. He took that information and ran with it from your direction in the February meeting and has now officially submitted the application that you have in front of you tonight. This property has been before the HPC for the renovation that Matt Jackson did on the building. The classification is contributing, which is a building less than 50 years old and which is compatible with its historic surrounding. And this building is included in the National Register of Historic Places, Lebanon Courthouse Square Historic District. As mentioned, the certificate of appropriateness tonight is for an outdoor covered terrace. The applicant is requesting to install a new outdoor covered terrace adjacent to the building on a extremely wide city sidewalk. To construct the terrace on the city sidewalk, the applicant will be required to seek approval from the Lebanon Board of Works. The proposal is to construct a 75-foot by 9-foot post-frame terrace with black metal roof, with a black metal shed roof. The exposed components of the structure will be wrapped in black aluminum to match the metal roof. The aluminum fence used to delineate the space from the public sidewalk is 36 inches tall and will be black in color. String lights and sconces will be used for accent lighting. Wood planters have been incorporated into the design to soften the structure. And these were all comments that we talked about during the last meeting. The building owner didn't want gooseneck lighting attached to the side of the building, so that's why the applicant has somewhat pivoted to do the lighting in the proposal here. The bottom of the post will be anchored into the sidewalk. The one small change from the discussions we had in February was how it actually anchors in a safe manner. During the last February meeting, we talked about, the architect talked about having it just on post. They couldn't meet the wind load requirements in that application, so they needed to attach it to the building. So that's what you're seeing in the rendering is the terrace attaching to the building wall at the top of the post adjacent to the wall with a 2x10 plate that will be installed the length of the structure and attached to the wall using through bolts that are installed in the mortar joints, tying to an interior plate for structural support needed. The use of the terrace is intended to be utilized year-round and support use of the business occupying the first floor space of this structure. In the information that was provided to you, the architect did provide an explanation of why they needed to go with a 2x10 plate for the wind load requirements in all the building codes. And running that all thread or whatever you want to call it through the mortar joints, if and when someday this has to be removed, should be a relatively easy fix. It shouldn't damage the structure much more than just having to replace the mortar. The applicant did provide renderings of the terrace, which I'll have them shown on the screen. So this is the color rendering showing that the roof, the black standing seam metal roof with the black fencing around the bottom and the planters. The detail has been provided by the architect and does show quite a bit of detail in how things will be constructed, along with the cut parts of how that 2x10 is treated, as you can see up there in the top right-hand corner of the screen. So that concludes the information I have for you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have before you hear from the applicant.
All right, thank you, Derek. Any questions for Derek? No? All right, Patrick, would you like to come forward? Welcome back.
Hi. Patrick Clues, founder of Clues Brews. Good to see you guys again. I mean, I don't know what
You have any, okay, I didn't know if you had anything else to add or anything?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, Derek hit it. Yeah, I mean, do you have any questions for me?
The only question, I had read the email from Mr. Shade, I think it was. The only question I had in regards to that 2x10 metal pieces, was that going to be painted or some type of coating on that so that steel doesn't rust and go down the sides of the building? I may have missed that if it was. That would be my only fear with that. I understand going through that for structural support, going through just through the mortars, which is what's preferred on those buildings. Do you know if that's going to be painted or anything?
Are you talking about the bolt itself?
Well, the actual, I'm guessing this, the beam or the whatever, that plate.
I got the notes right here. Oh. Treated, yeah, it's a treated board is what he's calling it. He does say the connection would receive caulking to ensure water penetration would be covered. I'm sure it's something we could add, but
Okay, and I may have misunderstood by the terminology plate, so,
The plate, maybe I can clear that up. The plate itself will be on the interior.
interior,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
So it's the 2x10 bolt through plate on the inside to keep the load from coming through?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
good enough.
Yep.
I think that's my only concern with that addition to what we had spoke with last time. Any other questions for Patrick?
I don't have anything.
For the applicant? Okay, with that, I would entertain and make the motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness as submitted for the 125 North Meridian Street, the Clues Brews project. I have a second. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, thank you, sir.
thank you. It'll be a great addition. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving right along on our second item of the agenda today, we have a certificate of appropriateness for Rob Crawford as 111 West Main Street. Certificate of appropriateness for paint mural and install a window. And hear from Derek first.
Okay, thank you. As mentioned, the applicant tonight is Rob Crawford, owner of 111 West Main Street. This property has been before has not been before the Historic Preservation Commission, but has received staff level COA for general maintenance on October 6th of 2020, which I'm sure if you've been downtown, you've seen the scaffolding up now for about a month, and they moved around front, so they're moving on with that. The COA that was issued basically was for them to refresh everything that you kind of saw there from the Bijou remodel that was about 20 years old. So everything relatively stays the same. They're even rebuilding the gooseneck lights, putting them back up, which they're in process of doing that. The building is contributing, same as 125 North Meridian Street, which is a building less than 50 years old. And which is compatible with its historic surroundings, or a building which is over 40 years old, but character does not rise to the level of notable or outstanding. This building is also included in the National Register of Historic Places, Lebanon and Courthouse Square Historic District. As mentioned, the COA tonight is for a new window to be installed on the alley side of the building, the west-facing wall, along with a recreation of a mural on the same wall. The window that is being proposed tonight is actually going to be installed in a location where a window was previously filled with brick. I'm going to start with the window, and then we'll move on to the mural. The window will be bronze in color to match the doors being installed as part of the general maintenance COA. The window height is 84 inches. The upper half of the window is full glass, and the lower half of the panel opens in an accordion style, giving access to servers from the bar area of the interior to provide efficient service to patrons utilizing the outdoor dining option in the alley, which is all part of this master plan when we redid our square. Was to, at the time, we intended for people to be able to use that space, but lucky for us, we now have the Chop House, and they intend to utilize that space. So that will help with the efficiency of the serving in the alley. The small upper few inches of the arch space above the new window will be trimmed in the matching bronze aluminum. So let me pause right there, and I will give you some information, some pictures. There is the window in the cut sheet form, basically kind of showing you how it will fit into that space and what that lower sash, so to speak, looks like. And this is the location of the window. So if you have your bearings there, this is, probably with the original part of the building about halfway back or so into the alley. The applicant did let me know that the window to the right of there is in the ladies' restroom, so that will not be a window, just to be clear. Okay, the second part of the application tonight here is the mural. And I'm going to let the applicant talk about some of the history that he's been able to dig up. But the applicant has done a wonderful job of finding out the history of the building, who occupied the building, and even what the mural actually used to say. That's painted on the building, and if you sit there, if you have the time, stare at it for an hour, you can actually start to see the thing, come together. It's pretty amazing. So, the existing mural was a painted sign for past occupants of the building, as mentioned. The faded painting was advertising for Trips Meat Market, owned by Hugh Bowen. Let me show you. I'm going to show you some historic pictures of the building. And if you look really close, there's the alley with the TR exposed. And you can see, again, as we stared in the alley the day we were out there getting a game plan for the pointing of the brick, it just became clear as day, this image on that wall. So that is a picture of what was there with a very bustling downtown. Kind of neat to see these old pictures with all the different businesses and people that were using our square. So here is a rendering of basically the recreation of that mural. The mural, again, tells the story of the property, even though it is defined in modern terms as probably more of a sign if somebody were to come with this application. We discussed it heavily internally and decided that since it is not advertising a active business, it's going to be thrown into the artwork side of the mural. The UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance, would not allow for this sign to be painted as 1830 chop house. There are restrictions there with how big signs can be, and this would be bigger than allowed. But again, since it's not advertising a active business, we are going to consider this artwork from that side of the office. Lane and Brown Hardware was another occupant of the building once upon a time as well, so that's the combination of the two. The idea of painting a mural on walls has been, we've talked about that pretty extensively on how to handle that. Do you paint it on some sort of canvas and then attach that canvas to the wall? Do you not paint brick that's never been painted before? I think this one somewhere lies in the middle, in my opinion. There's obviously been painted brick on this wall for 130, 40 years. It still stands. I don't believe that painting directly onto the brick with all the repairs that have been done in a small location will have a negative impact on the overall facade of the building. So staff certainly does not have any problems with the application as submitted, with it being painted directly onto the surface. Staff recommendation is that the mural and windows are respectful to the history of the structure and to the district, and staff recommends approval of the COA application. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Derek. Any questions for Derek? Steph? All right, we'd like the applicant.
Crawford is here tonight, and I think he'll give you a couple other comments and
All right.
answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you for taking the time this evening to see us for me. I started looking when I bought the property in October of 2018. First thing I noticed about it was the mural that was on that wall. And I kind of started doing a little hunting and pecking around because it sparked my interest about what is that? What's the story it tells? How old is it? So on and so forth. And it became quite the journey of going back and forth to the library and then getting on to websites and hunting it down. And it's very interesting that I found out through trying to find out what the mural says that I found the family. He was a German immigrant, moved here to Lebanon in 1854. Him and his family settled here. He was a butcher, and in 1871 he built that building on the square. He built what is the bar side of the chop house in 1871, and that's where he ran his butcher shop because that's got the concrete floor. And then in 1872 he acquired the small building next to it and built what is 111 West Main, that's the wooden floor. And then in the fall of 1872, Lane and Brown, who were further down on Main Street, they had a fire and needed a place, and best I can tell you, they were the first tenants to move in there. So that's kind of the story behind the mural, is that, Trips, William Trips, and then later his son Peter Trips came in and ran the meat market. And it was a meat market up until 1919, and then became a grocery store, and then it became different things over the years, but the really interesting end of it being a butcher shop up until 1919, and now we've come full circle with it being the chop house. So really cool. I think the mural that you see in that picture that Derek presented to you was advertising for Hugh Bowen. It was the top header where it says Trips Meat Market. I believe that's the way that William and Peter chose to brand the building itself, and then the tenants would get their advertising there. And there's some early advertising I found from Hugh Bowen in that era that kind of matches up to what little you can see there. But I think really to really create that, I wanted to kind of go back to the very beginnings of it when William was, opening his business. He just built the building, and then his first tenants being Lane and Brown Hardware coming in, and would really tie that together. The only deviation from any of that I wanted to do was, if you look close at it right below the head or Trips Meat Market, I wanted to get established on the south side of the public square in 1871. And so it starts to tell the story to people there that can come and see that. I could stay here for hours going on about the family and the building, the things that I found on it. It's really interesting, really great. But I'd really appreciate the opportunity to recreate and I would say restore to a certain degree, because we're certainly going to stay with the rebranding of the building, Trips Meat Market. Again, some of the old advertising you'd see when different tenants were in there, it'd be located at the old Trips stand, or located at Trips Meat Market, or above Trips Meat Market, depending on which tenant was there and the advertising they used. That's how they referenced where they were in the 1800s, because they didn't have addresses. So William Trips definitely made a mark for himself in the town.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant thus far?
No questions here?
I just have a couple in regards to the coloring of the mural. Am I correct in saying that the bottom half is from a newspaper print that you're reusing? Okay.
Well, from that point of view, what you see in that rendering, I literally, when I found the advertising in the newspaper, when you download that, it brings it as a yellowish background. Color-wise, I want to try to keep it error correct as best we can. So I don't know if the yellowish with the black print, sometimes you see different colors used in that early era. The red for Trips Meat Market is kind of a shot in the dark on what maybe they might have used back in the day. Again,
There's not enough to see yet on the brick?
I'm sorry?
There's not enough to see in the lettering what it may have been? No?
No, there really isn't. It's difficult. You really have to stare at it. If you look at it in the right light, you start to make out Trips, and then you can really make out Market, and then you have to kind of put it together there. But as far as the color, you've stared at it with me too.
Yeah, as far as the color goes, you really just see the outline of kind of the letters, the detail of what the color was. That's the tough part for sure.
Sure.
It looks like it was on a dark background. If you look at the picture from what was circa 1910, it looks like it was probably a lighter color on a dark background. And we could certainly stay that course. The software I had to do that rendering was somewhat limited on how I could create that and bring the point to present.
I know on that bottom half, with that being the newspaper print, I don't think I can make this a requirement, but I would suggest maybe removing that yellow background and just sticking with the white. Because that's probably just coloring over the years on that old paper versus just regular white paper. So I think a white background would look really sharp there, and then you wouldn't have as many different colors on the scheme as well. And then the established part, is that the font that you think you're going to use for that?
Yeah, it was one of the ideas I had, was something cursive. It just kind of gives it a class of, a little bit of elegance to the whole thing, and really.
A lot of signs in the early 1900s didn't use as much cursive as they did the block. You start to see that transition post 19th century, after the 1860s, that we start to see more block lettering. So you may look into more a block style, even at the quote. Very few letters were scripted on the larger signs because they're harder to read. Just to point that out.
Do Williams advertisement on your, I could show them the kind of block they used when they were, actually, they've been, yeah, the family advertising on the original that I sent you, kind of give them an idea.
Oh, if you could scroll down right there. Yeah, I thought that's pretty interesting that the pork chops were the same price as a porterhouse steak. So,
I think it just quick, but yeah, I caught that too.
Cows were in plentiful supply, apparently.
yeah, and 15 cents.
Yeah, we
Surely
can
that has to
break
be
that.
pound.
That's why I think if you see that, it goes, I feel I am justified in lowering retail prices. I am justified, and then you look at the mural and it goes and it starts with an A-M. I think that's why I believe that era, because this advertising would have been from 1910. But to work to your point, this was Peters, which was William's son. You see how they block letter south side of Public Square? And that's where that branding was, Trips and Meat Market, south side of this Public Square. Is that what you're kind of suggesting as we go in established on the south side of the Public Square in 1871 in that kind of block lettering?
Yes, versus the brush script.
Right. Because even there, this would have been October of 73, he would have used block lettering of that nature there.
I just feel it has that very early typeset look
Right.
that I think would really complement the building well and give it that, the feel.
Now, that helps tell the story and keep it era correct. You can see there's Lane Brown's original advertising. And of course, there was Clay and, Graves and Clay. You can see the call out, the old trip stand. Of course, what I did was just cut and take the top half and expand it to fit the
Sure.
footprint of the mural, essentially.
And so this would be painted directly onto the brick. Are you going to put any type of clear coat over top of that, I assume, then, too?
Now, we'll want to definitely clear coat that. Actually, that whole, the part of the big plan is the entire alley wall will be coated, sealed up once the re-tuck pointing is completely done and this is done to help protect that new mortar tuck pointing. So it'll get a sealant put on it.
Okay.
So that'll be part of that entire renovation project that we're on right now.
But there'll be no more additional painting outside of that mural onto the brick?
No, not on that side. We will repaint the front. As you know, the front of the building is brick red and green. But
Okay.
the alley side, we're going to leave exposed and leave it to its original condition, only restoring. There's actually a second mural on that wall. It's all the way up to the top, and it looks to be additional Hugh Bowen advertising. It wasn't in that mural, so he had to do it sometime after 1910. But if you get a chance, you can still make out a little bit of that second mural that's all the way up at the top.
And is it going to be the same size as what's currently there?
Yeah, I'd like to try to keep that as original as possible for presentation and historical purposes.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions or concerns for the applicant this evening?
I like that callback to, something that was on that building at one time. It's kind of neat to see, see something from that period. So
Yes,
I think it'll be a nice addition to that space.
absolutely. Okay, you have any other questions for us, or would you like any guidance on anything?
Now, I think we could probably put together probably a different rendering. I don't know if we'll need one for final approval, but we, definitely take into consideration what you're thinking there and get the final. I haven't gotten an artist actually involved. This was kind of my idea, putting it together, so the finessing end of it that we're sitting here chatting about,
Okay.
certainly take into consideration and get it put together before we get it painted.
Commissioner, I personally feel like this is a really good opportunity for the business owner and for the downtown to utilize this. What are your thoughts on potentially approving pending final renderings, since we're talking about color changes and different changes in the actual mural, and once he gets that artist rendering, come back for a second approval, or Derek, can we do that off-site, that we can approve the project pending approval, so the applicant doesn't have to come back to the commission?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard your comments loud and clear. I think Rob has done the same, and, from the comments with the changes in the lower half of the color, some of the font changes, if Rob wants to put that together with an artist, and if you want to give me the ability to approve it with those changes on the staff level, I'm happy to take on that responsibility.
Okay. Well, with that, any further discussion? I would entertain a motion to approve the,
Do they have to be, since there's the window and the mural, is there two separate?
yes, there'll be two separate. So we'll do the mural first here. So we'll do, I'll make a motion to approve the mural pending staff approval of the final renderings.
So moved?
Motion and a second, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And motion carries, thank you. And we'll move right then to the window. So we spent a lot of time on the mural. Is there any questions or concerns on the window at all? I did have I'm sorry, I'm the only one, I guess, tonight that's questioning. The second opening, obviously we don't want a window there, being a women's restroom or any restroom. But what are your thoughts in potentially having that be like a fake window, if you will? Something that was still blocked on the inside, but looks like a window. I think you guys are doing so much work and making that look amazing, and that little bit of detail. Of course, I don't know what cost would be involved into having that there, or even if Derek, maybe if that window was blocked off with some type of tinting, I think that would have to go through a UDO variance, I suppose, or would that be through historic preservation? I'm just spitballing ideas. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, so I think repeat the comments again so I can digest.
So if we were to if the applicant was to consider putting in a second window, but blocking that off visually.
Sure.
I know, I believe in the standards that you can't have certain tint or dark that you can't see inside. I don't know if that would be a consideration for our commission or for the...
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, Casey, now. I mean, that'd be obviously something for the applicant to consider. The tinting part of a window comes from the HPC guidelines. If the applicant were to consider that, I think it'd be a nice addition. Sorry, I'm just trying to think it through a little bit.
Just uncovering, as we've seen on the Jackson building, uncovering those windows, and we've seen it in the, I think it was the 101 West Main, seeing those windows reopened again just breathes a whole lot of energy and life into the building.
Sure. Yep, go ahead.
So we're talking about adding a faux window into the second window middle that you see, correct?
Yes, that's...
To the right.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I don't know, this is the typical, I don't know what I don't know.
Sure.
If we go to start to uncover that, what's behind that, you'll look there, because being the women's restroom and the toilets there, I don't think there's any plumbing in that area. But I do know that there's plumbing that comes out. You'll see it by the post there.
Sure.
So mechanically, I don't know what's back there. While I'm open to the conversation, I kind of see a couple of pretty tall hurdles there from that point of view. Although it's 3 block thick, so, I mean.
Well, it by no means affects the application this evening. I just thought it was,
Right,
It'd be a
yeah, I
nice
mean,
area.
yeah, you look at it, you get curious about it, and then at the same time, I start I've got a kind of an engineering mind, so I start thinking about
Yeah,
those
sure.
things.
On the window that's being replaced, I see it looks like maybe, is it skim coated or is that actually filled in on
At the
that north
top,
side? Yeah.
There's cinder blocks at the top.
Okay.
So if you look back at pictures from the 80s and possibly like early 90s that I've found on this building, they had air conditioning units shoved in there. And so when they decided to take those out, they just shoved cinder blocks in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly looking.
Leave it to the next guy to fix it.
Right. So here I stand tonight to resolve that. We're definitely going to recreate the archway that you see on the center window there, and then you can see there on the backside of the post, there used to be a door next to the existing door. That's a black bronze finished door, window door there now. We've had that replaced already as part of the renovation project, so. But the archway, I want to carry that through to the interior where we just renovated the interior with that new brick wall as well. So it'll certainly pop. It's going to look sharp. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to get that done.
I personally watched your video the other day, or someone's video on showing the renovations, and it's looking nice, so I'm excited to have it.
A lot of exciting things, and again, to find out that it was started as a meat market, it was built 150 years ago. We're going to try to tie some things together with the Chop House to celebrate its 150th birthday this year, the old Trips Meat Market. So it's a pretty cool story. It really is. It's fun. It's been fun. Like I said, I was trying to figure out what was painted on the side of the building, and it took this long journey to bring it all together.
And here we are. All right, any other questions regarding the window installation? All right, with that, I would entertain a motion.
So moved?
A motion and a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor? All right.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, thank you very much, sir, appreciate your
Your
time.
time this evening.
All right, any other business to come before the board? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, and we'll see you next month.